My name is Alice, and at 31 years old, my parents decided to give me a Christmas gift called How to Grow Up. My sister, on the other hand, unwrapped plane tickets to Europe. So I followed their advice quite literally. By the next morning, their phones were blowing up with panic calls. If you've ever felt abandoned by the very people who were supposed to stand by you, tell me where you're tuning in from now. I bet you're imagining something sweet. Maybe a heartfelt memoir with gentle life lessons wrapped in a soft pastel cover. But no, not even close. It was a flimsy paperback, the front plastered with a cartoon woman in her 30s gripping a juice box and a glitter wand, while overdue bills floated around her head. The subtitle, Stop Being a Toddler in a Adult Body. Lovely, right? It was the kind of thing HR hands out during those dreadful training sessions. The sort of funny book people gift with a smirk, and this made me think of you. Except this time, my parents were dead serious. My mom was already telling my sister how she'd also picked up another copy for a coworker who still sprinkles smiley faces into professional emails. Gasp, the absolute crime. Meanwhile, my sister was peeling open a glossy cream-colored envelope tucked beneath the tree. It was thick, heavy, and practically humming with importance. I didn't even have to lean in to catch the airline logo at the top. Barcelona. She let out an exaggerated gasp. Are you serious? My parents beamed like they had just announced a Nobel Prize. We thought you deserved another chance to expand your international network. My dad declared as though he were dispatching her on a diplomatic mission rather than funding her third trip. Sorry, research project. This year to really help your career thrive. My mom added warmly. Then she turned to me as if the thought had just entered her head. And maybe this book will help your career take off, too. I smiled. That's my go-to whenever I'm trying not to cry, scream, or laugh in a way that might get labeled unstable. I wish I could say this was a what I'm thing, but if my life were a holiday special, it would be titled A Very Lopsided Christmas. Last year, my sister was gifted a shiny new MacBook for school. I got a laminated checklist meant for reorganizing the gouge written by hand in Comic Sans. I've learned to live with being the afterthought. I work full-time in a kindergarten. It's chaotic, sticky, sometimes wild. But unlike my family, at least it doesn't pretend to be something else. My days are filled with calming crying children breaking up toy-related standoffs and pretending not to see when a kid sneaks a bite of glitter glue. On weekends, I used to take on children's parties, too. Balloon animals, fairy wings, the full sparkly fantasy. You're literally the only person I know who owns 6 pairs of wings, but still no proper winter coat. My sister once joked, my parents just called it the clown gig, though. For the record, I've never dressed as a clown, because I do have standards and because kids deserve better. These days, I don't do as many parties, not because I've outgrown them, but simply because there aren't enough hours in the week. Most of my weekends are now spent watching my sister's daughter, free of charge, of course, because, as my mom likes to say, it takes a village. Apparently, I am that village. The whole thing, the babysitter, the therapist, the emergency contact, and the stand-in pediatrician when the real one's out of town. So, when they handed me that book with its smug little cartoon woman throwing a tantrum, I didn't say anything. I didn't cry. I didn't flip the coffee table or dramatically storm out like I might have fantasized about on particularly bad Mondays. I just smiled, and then I took a sip of the lukewarm cocoa I'd made for everyone and wondered how I could be 31 years old and still feel like a 10-year-old in my own family. After the gifts dinner happened, it was one of those potluck-style meals where my contributions were homemade and heartfelt, and my sister brought store-bought cranberry sauce that still got more praise than my rosemary roasted potatoes. At one point, my dad actually said, "Wow, Amelia, this cranberry sauce is delicious. Did you make it yourself?" She blinked. "No, I literally opened a can." He laughed like she just told the joke of the year. "You've always been the practical one." I nearly choked on my potatoes later. I offered to help clean up, of course, and my mom handed me a trash bag and said, You've always been good at this stuff. That's what I admire about you. You're not too proud to do the little jobs I wanted to. Ask what they thought my job was. If taking care of 25 preschoolers and keeping them from biting, gluing, or beating each other with Thai dinosaurs wasn't real enough, then what was? But I didn't, because this was Christmas, and because I knew the answer. They didn't see me as grown. They saw me as dependable, cheerful, silly, the helper, the extra set of hands. I wasn't ambitious. I wasn't important. I was nice and nice. People in this family got a sign, clean up duty. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling of my tiny rented room above our nail salon. I could still hear the giggle of my niece from earlier when I'd made her a reindeer puppet out of paper plates and red pom-poms. Her laughter echoed louder in my chest than anything my parents had said all day. That's when it hit me. They gave me a book on growing up like it was some clever little jab. But maybe, just maybe, they were right. Not in the way they thought. Not in a get a real job kind of way. Not in a stop acting like a child kind of way. But in a start acting like an adult who deserves respect kind of way. So I got up, brushed the glitter off my floor, sat down at my desk, and I started drafting a message. Just a simple one, kind, polite, firm, no passive aggression, no sarcasm, just clear boundaries. I let my sister know I'd be stepping back from regular babysitting starting in the new year. I was happy to be an aunt, but I couldn't continue giving up every weekend, especially not when it meant sacrificing my time, energy, and sanity. I also informed her gently that I would no longer be contributing to her travel fund or tuition. I had my own future to plan for. I wished her well, told her I believed in her dreams. Then I sent a second message to my parents thanking them for the book, letting them know it had really made me think. I didn't say anything about how it made me feel. I didn't need to because the next morning, their call started and I let them go to voicemail. As I had work, as I had kids who actually saw me as I had a life and because for the first time in a long time, I was finally growing up on my own terms. I didn't expect a standing ovation or anything, but I also didn't expect 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and a group text from my mom that said, "We're just very surprised. This feels out of character. Please reconsider for the sake of the family." Out of character. You know what else was out of character? Giving your child a passive-aggressive self-help book as a Christmas gift and expecting her to keep washing your dishes and raising your other child like a living nanny with glitter allergies. But sure, I was the problem now. I didn't answer. Not that day, not the next either. I figured they could sit with it. They were big on natural consequences when I was a kid. Seemed fair to let them experience one. The irony is if you asked my parents, or even my sister, they'd probably tell you I had a perfect childhood stable home. No screaming, good schools, no tragedy to pin anything on. What they never noticed was that some of the deepest bruises don't leave visible marks. They just get passed off as jokes or parenting styles and buried under years of subtle neglect. When I was 7, I told my parents I wanted to be a fairy when I grew up, not a princess, not a ballerina fairy. I had a whole speech prepared. I believed it with my whole heart. My dad laughed so hard he dropped his fork. "Maybe aim for something with dental insurance," he said. And my mom said she'll change her mind. They always do. I never did. The fairy dream became early childhood education. The sparkly wings became puppet shows and story time and messy art projects that made kids light up like Christmas trees. But to them, it was all the same. A phase, an adorable detour on the way to something more respectable with my sister. Amelia always knew what she wanted. Success, glossy success, structured spreadsheet worthy, internationally certified success. She had a LinkedIn page at 16. Took debate team so seriously she practiced arguing with herself in the mirror. She won awards for writing essays on topics she didn't care about. She was good at performance, just not the kind with puppets and crayons. When she said she wanted to study international relations, My parents clapped like someone had just announced she'd cured polio. "She's going to change the world," they'd say dramatically. She got grants, internships, scholarships, and when those ran dry, she got me. At first, it was small, helping cover her student visa fees just until my next check clears, she said. Then it was textbooks. Then it was her trip to Berlin for a networking symposium that looked suspiciously like a yoga retreat with tapas. Then childcare. That one was a little more permanent. She had her baby Elodie 2 years ago. I was thrilled. I love that little human like she's my own. But loving her doesn't mean I agreed to parent her while her actual parents were jetting off to build career connections in Lisbon. It started slowly, just for an hour, while I run errands just this Saturday so we can go out just for the weekend. We haven't had a trip in forever and somehow just became always. I missed birthday parties for kids at work so I could stay home with Elodie. I canceled dates. I stopped taking party gigs because my weekends weren't mine anymore. Once I mentioned maybe starting up again, my mom said, "Oh, honey, that's not a real business. That's like playing dress up." She said it while I was holding her grandchild, who was literally wearing a sparkly tutu and calling me fairy auntie. The irony was lost on her, but the worst part, I let it happen. I let it all happen because I thought that's what being good meant. Being good meant helping, being needed, being useful, even if it meant being invisible. That's what I'd been trained to be since I was little. When Amelia got an A, they framed her report card when I won a storytelling contest at school dressed as a dinosaur. They told me not to show off when Amelia said she wanted to work in diplomacy. They cleared out the guest room and turned it into a study when I said I wanted to work with children. They asked if I at least consider getting a backup degree. They didn't see me. They saw my job title and cringed. They saw my glitter and thought it meant I hadn't grown up, but I've wiped more noses, handled more meltdowns, and mediated more toddler feuds than most CEOs deal with in a boardroom. I just do it in sneakers and paint-splattered aprons instead of suits. I didn't grow up to be a fairy. I grew up to be someone who makes kids feel safe, who notices when they're quietly sad, who turns scraps into dragons and hugs into confidence. But that didn't fit their definition of success. So when they said grow up, what they really meant was be more like her, more like Amelia. And I almost believed them. I almost believed that being cheerful made me immature, that having a deep love for children made me foolish, that being helpful somehow made me less valuable. That is until this year, until that book, until the moment I understood that growing up didn't mean dimming parts of myself. It meant embracing more of who I truly was, only with boundaries. So I started carving out space for myself. That week after Christmas, I didn't babysit, didn't offer, didn't even hint that I might be available. When Amelia mentioned she needed to run a quick errand, I kindly said no. And when she reminded me they had her dinner event Friday night, I just responded, "Hope it's amazing. Maybe next time." She never texted back. I also stopped sending money. No dramatic announcement. I just stopped. No warnings, no explanations. I let the silence speak for itself. And by Thursday, judging from the text I got, it had spoken loud and clear. "Alice, you've always been so giving. It stings a little that you're choosing now to pull away. Dad, we're concerned about you. The sudden distance is worrying, Amelia." So, I guess that was it. I was on my own now. Funny how the moment you stop being everyone's unpaid assistant, they act like you've gone rogue. But here's the truth. I wasn't withdrawing. I was asserting myself, claiming my time, protecting the joy I'd been slowly draining just to keep everyone else content. And somewhere in that shift, I started laughing again. Not the forced, polite kind of laughter, not the smile through the burn type, but actual body shaking, genuine laughter, like when my coworker spilled juice on her pants and turned it into a spontaneous water safety demonstration, or when one of my students said, "I love you more than jelly beans, but not more than outer space." That kind of joy doesn't come from always being agreeable. It comes from honesty, from choosing the kind of grown-up you want to be, even if that means owning 6 pairs of fairy wings and keeping a glitter inventory in a spreadsheet. The first real wave of panic came in the family group chat. Mom, quick question. Are you available this weekend to watch Elodie? Amelia and Marcus have plans. It won't take long. Me? Sorry, I've got plans. Amelia, plans or one of your fairy parties? Me, neither. Just unavailable. Dad, that's disappointing. We were really relying on you. Relying on me like I'm a microwave or a shoehorn. No mention of the 100 weekends I'd already sacrificed. Just the assumption I'd always be available. But that weekend, I went to the zoo alone, and I had the time of my life. I fed giraffes, ate overpriced cotton candy, and cracked up when a toddler chucked a shoe into the Mercat exhibit and declared, "That's my offering." Nobody asked anything of me. Nobody accused me of being childish. No one handed me a baby and said, "Be a good girl and watch her for a second." I didn't even share it online. I kept it all for myself. Of course, the peaceful afterglow of giraffe feeding lasted exactly 36 hours. Because Monday morning, I arrived at work to 3 missed calls from my dad and 1 voicemail that opened with, "We are deeply hurt." Always a promising opener. Apparently, Amelia had tried to hire a paid babysitter for Saturday night. Her words, not mine. And it fell through some teen with a fake resume and a nose ring backed out last minute. And rather than cancel her networking cocktail mixer, she left Elodie with Marcus's cousin. The cousin, bless his soul, forgot to change Elod's diaper for 5 hours, taught her how to say screw this, and let her eat whipped cream straight from the can. My parents were horrified. Do you know how much stress Amelia is under? My mom said she doesn't need this kind of betrayal. Betrayal, that was the word. Like I'd stolen state secrets or abandoned a kitten in the snow. I didn't even respond. I just stared at my phone and slowly peeled a Paw Patrol sticker off my notebook while breathing through my nose the next time Amelia texted. It wasn't a request. It was a statement. "Amelia, we need to talk." Mom said, "You've been weird lately. Also, I noticed my tuition deposit hasn't gone through. Are you behind?" Or I actually laughed out loud in the teacher's lounge, where 2 of my coworkers immediately leaned in like they just heard the first line of a soap opera. "I'm not behind." I texted back, "I just stopped." She called me immediately. "You what?" I stopped sending money. "You can't just do that without warning. I'm in the middle of applying for this Geneva program and I'm not your sponsor. Amelia, I'm your sister." She was quiet for 1 blessed second. Then she scoffed. "This is about the stupid book, isn't it?" Elmo said, "Yes, that would have been the easy answer. But the truth is, the book was just the last straw. A little badly designed paperback balancing on top of a mountain of unpaid babysitting, passive-aggressive comments, and emotional invisibility. It's not about the book. I said it's about everything. What's everything I said, and Mom and Dad, and how none of you take me seriously unless I'm being useful. How my job's a joke to you. But my free labor is apparently sacred. How I've paid thousands to support your education and your trips, while you roll your eyes at mine like I'm some fairy tale dropout." "Oh my God," she muttered. "You're being dramatic." There was the classic Amelia shut down, the same voice she used when we were kids. And I cried after she cut the head off my favorite stuffed unicorn. "You're so sensitive. You're just emotional. Grow up. You're not entitled to my money," I said quietly, "and you're not entitled to my time. I love Ellie, but I'm not your nanny." She hung up. Honestly, that was kind of a win until the escalation began. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my work, unannounced, full coheels, scarf, the whole "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed" look in real life. I was cleaning up after a glitter craft explosion when I saw her standing in the hallway, scanning the walls like she was trying to find something criminal in our crayon, drawn whales and construction paperalls. "Can we talk?" she said. I blinked. "Right now," she smiled tight. "Just a moment." I stepped into the hallway, still holding a glue stick. "Your sister's very upset," she began. "She says you're being cold, and I have to say I agree." I said nothing. She looked around, then added, I know you enjoy this environment, but maybe it's time to think about the bigger picture. You're not a teenager anymore. I looked down at the glue stick in my hand. You know what's funny? I said, every day I tell my kids that their feelings matter, that they deserve respect, that it's okay to say no. She blinked. And I really believe that. That I added, even if I have sparkles on my pants while I'm saying it. She stared at me like I just recited Shakespeare in ancient Greek. I'm not being cold, I said. I'm being clear. That's what growing up means. Setting limits, protecting your peace, choosing how you want to live, and abandoning your family. No, I said, just stepping out of unpaid servitude. She opened her mouth, but I walked back into my classroom because snack time was sacred, and my kids didn't judge me for not buying plane tickets to Europe. The next few weeks were quiet, tense, weirdly quiet. No requests, no invites, just silence until the party. Elo's birthday. I didn't get an invitation. What I got was a Facebook post. Elodie in a bouncy castle holding a cake twice her size, while Amelia and Marcus posed next to her in coordinated pastels. The caption read, "Some families are born, others show up." I wasn't tagged. Neither was anyone from my side of the family. I sat with that for a while, like really sat with it on the couch in silence eating popcorn. I didn't even want. Then I got up and I booked a small venue. Then I pulled out my boxes of costumes and decorations and puppets. I messaged a few parents from work. I called in a few favors. And the next weekend, I threw a party. A magical, colorful, chaotic, sparkle-filled birthday celebration just for Alid, just me and her. No politics, no manipulation, just love. We made crowns. We had a puppet show. I let her spray glitter confetti with zero restraint. She hugged me so hard at the end, I thought I'd fall over. Her best birthday ever, she whispered. I didn't cry. I just smiled and said, "That's what aunties are for. No strings, no guilt, just magic." And this time, I got to be the grown-up. The trouble started with a voice note. It was barely 10 seconds long, sent to Amelia from Alad's iPad, which she mostly used to watch cartoons and accidentally call random contacts in the background. You could hear her tiny voice yelling, fairy party, no boring party, no boring cake." And then, just barely audible, my laugh. She'd been reenacting her birthday weekend ever since it ended, running around in the sparkly tutu I gave her, holding up a glitter wand, demanding more sparkles, and asking where the singing dragon went. I should have expected Amelia wouldn't take it well. At first, she texted me something vague. "Amelia, she's confused. Keeps talking about your party like it was the real one. Not helpful." Then, "Amelia, your sister's upset. Elodie keeps asking for you and calling our party boring. This is not okay." It didn't escalate until someone, probably a lady using her wildly chaotic toddler logic, told her, "DCA or teacher, my mama's party. Boring my fairy Andy party fun." She even tried to stuff one of my glitter stickers into her cubby, announcing it was for next time. Thought it was funny. Amelia thought it was treason. Next thing I knew, got a call from my boss. Apparently, someone, no names, but I could guess, had contacted the center asking if any children had ever been removed from class without authorization by a staff member. They were fishing. I sat there in the staff room surrounded by paper snowflakes and juice boxes trying to breathe. I hadn't done anything wrong. I had proof. I pulled up the text messages me. "Hey, just confirming for Saturday. Same drop-off time as last year. Amelia, sure. Just keep it simple. No need to go overboard." Me, all clear to do it at the community hall. Amelia, fine. Just text me the address. All of it in writing. All of it clear. But that didn't stop the whispers. It didn't stop my aunt from calling me to ask if I was doing okay emotionally. It didn't stop my dad from leaving a voicemail where he said, "You know, we could have gone to the police. We chose not to think about that." Think about that. I stared at the wall for a long time after that message. Then I got up, made tea, and opened a new folder on my desktop proof in case they lose their minds again. Inside the full text thread, the party rental receipt, the RSVP. Amelia had texted the night before with, "We'll drop her off around 11. Thanks again." Then I wrote the email. "Hi, Amelia. Since I'm now hearing from others that you're suggesting I took a Lodi without permission, I've attached a full record of your written consent. If this continues, or if my workplace receives another false inquiry, I'll be consulting legal counsel. I love a Lodi, but I will not tolerate being slandered for hosting a party. You approved best me." She didn't respond, but my mom did. This is family, not court. You're being called again. Please come talk it through. Not falsely accused or defamed, just cold. They always made my pain a temperature issue. If I stayed calm, I was icy. If I showed emotion, I was too sensitive. There was no correct setting for me to exist in. Meanwhile, Elodie kept asking for me. Her daycare teacher texted me. She tried to call you on a playphone today. Said she was going to invite you to her party part 2. Thought you'd want to know. I smiled, then cried, but I didn't reach out. Not even when Amelia posted a photo of Elodie playing in the backyard with a caption, "Home is where the real family is." Not even when my parents posted a joint message on Facebook about misguided family members who think children are toys to be won. I said nothing because I didn't need to fight lies with more noise. I had the truth, and apparently I had backup. A week later, my uncle called the good one, the only one who once brought me cake on a random Tuesday, and said, "You matter more than they let on. You know, I saw your mom's post," he said. "Everyone's talking. It's ridiculous." I sighed. "I didn't do anything wrong." "I know," he said. "We all know." Apparently, my grandma had called Amelia to ask what the problem was. Amelia hung up. My cousin messaged me privately. I saw the party photos. "Elodie looks so happy. You're amazing with her." And then, without fanfare, without warning, I got a DM from one of Amelia's friends, someone I'd only met once. "Hey, I know it's not my place, but I just wanted to say the way they've been talking about you. It's not okay if you ever need someone to back you up. I'm here." It was a small message, but it felt enormous. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain. I was just the first one to say no. That weekend, I booked 3 new party clients, parents who'd seen photos from the fairy party and wanted something similar. One of them said, "We've had the usual bounce house and clown, but this feels like actual joy." And maybe that was the difference. Amelia's party had been Pinterest, perfect coordinated balloons, expensive cake, hired photographers. Mine had been messy, homemade, loud, glorious, and real. That following Monday, I found a letter in the mail. Amelia's handwriting filled the envelope. Inside was a short note. I panicked. I let fear get the better of me. It hurt watching Ellie glow with joy without me there. "You didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry. If you need space, I'll respect that. But if you'd ever like to see her again, I hope you'll reach out." I folded the letter fully. I didn't forgive her instantly. That kind of healing doesn't happen overnight. But I did send a reply back. "I love Elodie. I will always be happy to see her. But I won't play a role in a family pattern where affection is used as a bargaining chip. If we are going to rebuild, it has to begin with truth." She never wrote back. But 3 weeks later, a video landed in my inbox. Elodie was spinning in the tutu I'd given her, twirling until glitter floated through the air like stardust. At the end of the clip, she stopped mid-spin, looked right at the camera, and waved. "I love my fairy auntie," she said. I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled because for the first time, I no longer felt I had to prove myself. They had tried to box me into a label, but I built something stronger in its place. Now, it's been 3 years. Ila is 5, talkative, endlessly imaginative, and currently convinced she's part unicorn. I see her often. Her parents don't love it, but they allow it because she adores me. Even they can't deny what we share is genuine. And if we're being honest, They also enjoy the break. Amelia eventually got her degree, though it wasn't easy without my financial help. She had to cut down on travel, turn down unpaid career opportunities, and sign for a hefty loan. At first, it was rough, balancing schoolwork, a toddler, and no longer having endless weekend support. But she figured it out. She stumbled, she adapted, and in her own flawed way, she grew too. She's working now. It's not glamorous, not overseas, definitely not the kind of job she once boasted about round the holiday table. But it belongs to her. She's making it work, just not from a pedestal anymore. As for my parents, we keep things at a distance. A few required messages here and there. They still don't get it. They think I overreacted, and they've never once given a real apology. Only silence, occasionally followed by guilt-tinged words like, "Your sister's trying her best." We all miss the old days. But here's the truth. I don't. The life I have now, it belongs to me. I run a small business leading creative workshops for children. There's a 2-month wait list for birthdays. I'm invited often to speak at early childhood education events. I even hired a part-time assistant. Her name is Bree, and she's already more skilled at balloon animals than I'll ever be. I still wear glitter, still tell stories, still make silly voices, and walk around with paint in my hair. But now, no one calls it childish. They call it fully booked and thriving. And yes, sometimes I still wonder, did I push things too far? But then I remember the calm of my life now, and I realize maybe the real mistake wasn't drawing the line too soon, but too late. So, what do you think? Was I wrong for setting those boundaries when I did? Or should I have done it earlier? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever chosen your peace over someone else's comfort, hit like and subscribe. Because believe me, you are far from alone.